Hi, I'm Miss Shaw, and I'm going to be teaching the stats class in May Intersession. I just wanted to take a few minutes to walk you through some of the information in the class, so you're more familiar with how to find everything. This May Intersession is going to go by super fast, and we're going to be covering 9 chapters in 3 weeks. So that's basically 3 chapters each week with a test. So I just wanted to make sure you know how to find all the information. I'll be posting announcements very regularly in the class. So you'll find those through the homepage on here under my announcements. Every time I send out an announcement, I will also send an email attachment with it. So it'll come to your MyUCA email account. Let's go through the syllabus really quickly. And let me hit the highlights for you. Here is my office information. Since we're in COVID-19 right now and not on campus, I will have virtual office like this through Zoom. So if you need to meet with me, you'll be meeting with me in a face-to-face setting like this. Email is always the best way to get a hold of me and ask questions and things like that. But again, if you need to meet with me, we'll be meeting in Zoom. So you'll just send a request to meet with me. You should have already had Math 1390, College Algebra, or something equivalent before taking this class. The textbook you'll be using is Statistics for Managers using Microsoft Excel. And it will serve as your ebook and a link to your assignments through Pearson, through the MyLab. Most of you should have already had that using working with one of your math classes, so it shouldn't be anything too new for you. I do round up, so if you're kind of a borderline grade, if you have like an 89.5 or 79.5, something like that, I do round up to the next letter. So just FYI. I do not accept assignments or exams after the due date. So make sure you have them submitted on time. We'll go through kind of when everything is due in just a minute when I go through the pacing guide. We will, like I said, be covering 3 modules, which has 9 chapters. So module 1 will be chapters 1 through 3. We'll cover that in week 1. Module 2, which is chapters 4 through 6, will be covered in week 2. And module 3, which is chapters 7 through 9, will be covered in week 3. There will be 3 exams, 1 each week, with the option to take the comprehensive final. So that is a total of 550 points. I do have 2 bonus Excel projects in there, one in week 1, one in week 3, that are worth 50 points apiece. So that is in addition to the 550 points, you have an option to earn 100 additional points. And then the comprehensive final can replace one of your test scores. It cannot hurt your grade. If you want to take it, it can just, if you do better, then it can replace one of your lower test scores. So, all right, let's skip over and look at the pacing guide. This pacing guide, you need to keep it close by so you'll know when everything is due. Now I have 2 different due dates on here. I have your expected due date, and then I have the final due date. The final due date is kind of the drop dead date, okay? This is the date you have to have these assignments turned in. Again, I know this is a fast-paced class, and I know some of you are gonna be trying to work while you're taking this class, so that's why I have the final due date. My final due dates are on Sunday night, okay? For the first 2 weeks, the 3rd week is the last day of classes, okay? So this May 29th, that's the last that's that Friday of classes. So you have to have everything turned in that day. And for these first 2 weeks, it's that Sunday night by midnight. Okay. So we start out on May 11th, which is on Monday. You'll start with your module 0. There's 2 little items in there that you'll complete. One's a little kind of I call it a preview assignment that you do get 25 points for doing it. And all of my assignments are worth 25 points. Okay. And then the other one is setting up your Respondus lockdown browser. Okay. And then you'll start off with chapter 1. Read through chapter 1, complete the homework. As you're going through this, think about a normal class. Like when you're normal class, normal homeworks, you should spend about 2.5, 3 hours doing homework, you know, reading through the book, things like that. That's what you should anticipate spending on these assignments. So every day you should plan on spending, you know, about 3 hours on these assignments and stuff. So that's just kind of how a May intercession class is set up. So that's what I would, if I were you, plan on doing. The way I have it set up though is you've got 3 days of homework and then a test. And then I do have a bonus assignment due this first week that you can earn 50 points on. The tests are worth 100 points. On the second week, we have chapters 4, 5, and 6, and then a test. And I do start chapter 7 on that Friday only because there's no class on the following Monday. Memorial Day falls on that Monday, unfortunately. So really didn't have a choice. That next week is the last week of class, so I went ahead and started it a little early. It's still not going to be due until, you'll see the drop dead date is the 29th, but if I were you, I would go ahead and start on it on that Friday, okay? And that's another reason why I didn't give a bonus assignment on that week, is because I felt like you really needed to jump ahead and get started on that next set of work. So again, you have 9 chapters, 3 tests, 2 bonus assignments, and then the option to do the comprehensive final. Okay. I do use the Respondus lockdown browser for the test, but you'll see in there as you're getting ready to do the test that if you've made notes and things like that, I do allow you to use your notes. You just have to show me what you're going to be using. Okay. If you have made notes and things like that, I will let you, if you've done the review and things like that and made notes, I will let you use that on the test. Okay. The tests are timed. So when you're getting close to that mark, you need to turn in your work because it'll automatically close and submit what you've done. So make sure you finish and turn in your stuff. Okay. The online classroom is where you'll find everything that you need for the class. Again, module 0 is where you'll do all your information. You'll have the MyLab registration instructions. Make sure you go through this to set up your MyLab. Here's your first homework, the module 0 homework. Then you'll have your Respondus lockdown systems test. So you do have to have a webcam for this class. Okay. Then you will move over to your module 1. You'll get started in chapter 1. So I have this set up into 3 modules with all your chapter information in here. There are tons of videos in here. Put a lot of videos into this. I've got slides in here that you can look through and review. with most of them have the highlighted slides that are most helpful for the module. Okay. Again, that's not saying the others aren't important, but the ones that are highlighted are the ones that are the most important. Okay. Again, there's lots of videos in here, and then you'll have your homework. Excuse me, for each chapter. So that is pretty much how the course is set up. Anyway, in each module, you'll have 3 chapters and a test. Okay, so 3 chapters, a test, and if there's a bonus project, you'll have it in there as well. So if you have any questions or need help as you're going through this, be sure and reach out to me. I hope everything goes well for you. And again, this is fast paced. We're going to be going through these 3 weeks super fast. So good luck to you, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.